What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rants, no hate. So, Tony Harrison versus Tszyu. Now, this is a fight that I didn't talk about much at all, really, in the build-up of it happening. This wasn't a fight that a lot of people were even talking about. I'm going to do this video and say what I have to say about it. Maybe with the outcome of the fight, more people might start to pay attention now. I don't know. To this particular fight, now that it's all said and done. And it didn't go the way most people thought it was going to go. Now, I've said something about Tony Harrison in the past in conversations with people that I'm going to say now. And basically, people don't understand when you say certain things. You don't always know, but you're more on point than you are off point when it comes to observing fighters and things from a distance. Because certain things, it's like when you've seen the movie before, you know the ending already. Well, it's similar in this situation. But here's the thing. Tszyu, first off, salute both fighters. They came and did what they had to do. And for Tony Harrison, let me say this. Tony Harrison said that Tszyu was a basic fighter. He's aggressive and he's tough. I agree. That's one of his best attributes is he's tough and he's just constant pressure. Pressure fighters that can take a lot of punishment and they have the gas tank to give it, keep giving it, keep coming. Even if they're not the biggest punchers, if it comes down to your cardio being tested and who wants it more, who has more left in the tank, they can pull the wins out that way. Okay, but Tony Harrison spoke really confident. He sounded like he believed in what he was saying. He talked about how he was ready. Tszyu wasn't going to be able to survive what he had for him. And I tell you guys all the time, what you say and what you do can be two different things. Now, Tony Harrison was a good boxer, good movement, good ring IQ. Up until his last fight, before last, okay, before the Tszyu fight, I watched him, and after he fought Jermell Charlo, he was out of the ring for a long time, and he attributed his bad performance to ring rust. I didn't think it was ring rust. I just thought it was Tony Harrison not being the same fighter anymore. Took enough punishment in his career where it started to affect him. And people always overlook the training, the sparring, the constant sparring. They always overlook that. And they look at just the fight itself that they see and not understand all of the wear and tear you're putting on your body. And I watched him not be able to get out of the way of shots. I watched him get hit with shots that he normally would get away from. And I watched him struggle against a guy that he was supposed to blow away. And I didn't see it as ring rust. I saw it as, Tony Harrison just don't look the same. Because even when it comes to ring rust, your experience will get you through. Your IQ and your experience will get you through fights. You will be able to adjust to things and pretty much, even if it comes down to where you have to fight harder, if you have to make it more of a dog fight. If that's not what you're used to, it can be difficult. But your experience will get you through those fights. You will see them do certain things. You will see the adjustments. I didn't see anything. Okay. Leading up to this Tszyu fight, people probably really forgot about Tony Harrison's last fight. The way he talked about how he was going to pretty much dog walk Tszyu, I didn't believe that. Now, Tszyu is a basic type of fighter, but he's a good fighter. You see, it's the same way how people thought Dmitry Bivol was going to get destroyed by Canelo. And it didn't play out that way. When you are a disciplined fighter that stick to your game plan and fight your fight, a lot of times what happens, especially when a person overlook you, and I don't think Canelo took Bivol lightly. I thought he felt like he was going to walk through Bivol, break him down and get him out of there. I do believe he thought that. It didn't go that way. Tony Harrison, he said several times in the build up, the press conference, that he just don't see, Tszyu is You know, he's a basic fighter. There's really nothing that he's going to have that he's not going to be able to handle. Tszyu proved him wrong. I'm going to tell you what I saw. I saw Tony Harrison that is a fading fighter that cannot do what he used to. His body doesn't respond the way it needs to. His brain doesn't respond the way it needs to. In fact, this wasn't even like people thought he was going to completely outbox him, and if he was to lose, it was going to be by knockout in the late rounds. Tszyu was taking the fight to him. Tszyu was hitting Tony Harrison from the first round to the 9th round where it all ended. He was hitting him at will. He hurt him several times in that fight. Tony Harrison couldn't get away from those shots. And the shots that Tony Harrison was able to avoid was mostly the hooks later on in the fight, where some of them he threw kind of wide, and Tony was able to like slip under, and he would counter with a jab right hand. Okay. The other thing that I noticed about Tony Harrison, this is pretty much what you can tell a fighter is shot. Okay. His back was on the ropes all night. When you cannot fight in the middle of the ring, okay, and basically it gets to the point where you're trying to use the ropes to keep yourself up and basically take some of the strain off your legs, and then try to spring off the ropes to try to get a little more power in your shots. And the thing was, he was failing to throw power shots. He started landing the jab a little more in the jab right hand, like in the last maybe like 6th, 7th round or something like that. But he wasn't able to hurt Tszyu. Tszyu wasn't bothered by his shots. Tszyu was hurting Tony Harrison. And in fact, he looked shot. Think about all the guys that you've seen start laying on the ropes who normally was all over the place. Ali, Larry Holmes, Roy Jones Jr. You understand what I mean? When you start to see that type of situation where the guy's just on the ropes, yeah, you can see it in his skill set. He is depleting as a fighter. Now, I would say this. At his best, I still don't know if he'd beat Tszyu. I still don't know if he'd beat him at his best, because one thing, Tony Harrison is a good fighter, but it's not like he's like a masterclass boxer, man. He's a good fighter. He's a good fighter with his flaws, okay, that are noticeable. But one thing Tony Harrison has done too is he people say he lost focus against Jermell Charlo playing around, but you got to understand something. These are veteran fighters, man. These are not guys who have just started fighting, novice guys. These are veteran guys. He's not the same fighter. You know, we saw Riddick Bowe at 28 years old was washed up by the time he fought Andrew Galata. First and second fight, he was washed. He was done. Too much punishment. Terry Norris was developing brain damage at 28 years old, and was, got to a point where he just started losing the guys that he normally would have destroyed. He was a fighter that lost focus at times as well, okay, but had all the skills in the world. Tony Harrison, in my opinion, is nowhere near as good as what Terry Norris was. But Tony Harrison was a good fighter that I can see. You don't have to be a really good boxer to beat Tony Harrison now. All you have to do is be able to just walk him down. Tony Harrison, even when he got hurt, he wasn't even trying to hold. It's like he was just up, trying to put his hands up. He's stumbling backwards, like in them damn video games. When they get hurt, he's putting his hands up, and he's not even here. He's like, his hands are just here. There was a point where he was on the ropes where he literally just turned his head away from the punch. That referee should have stopped that fight before he even hit that floor. He was getting hit with power shots. It didn't take Jermell Charlo that many shots to get him down. Okay? And we know that Jermell is different. So him and Tszyu should be the next fight. We'll talk about that one another time. But just saying, Tszyu was hitting him at will, man. He got beat up in that fight. Let's just say it like it is. Tony Harrison got beat up. And for people saying, yeah, but it was a good fight. Yeah, it was a good fight, but it was a good fight mostly based on the fact that Tony Harrison, he slowed down enough to where he couldn't do anything different. He couldn't get on his toes and move. He couldn't work off his jab, give him different angles, work his head and body, and, make him miss and make him pay, and just keep it moving. He couldn't do that. So it was more of him standing there getting hit with shots that he just couldn't get out of the way of. Okay? Tim Tszyu is not slow, but he's not the fastest guy. And there's times where he was literally standing with his arm cocked back, waiting to land shots, and Tony Harrison was just, you know, he didn't even have the presence of mind. Hold on. And when the ref didn't stop that fight, I'm sitting there like, man, this ref, what are you trying to do? You trying to let him get killed in there, man? He was getting hit with everything. Even when he stopped the fight, Tony Harrison didn't protest it. And did you see how he was walking back to his corner? His legs wasn't even under it. You know, and those type of fights is what wear you down to where you start to, this is starting to, okay? Not just everything else, but here. And Tony Harrison, a lot of times when you're a good fighter, what happens is you want to go out with the win. And they'll bring you back against a lesser fighter. And should you win and look good, and you get that call from somebody talking about a big fight, and that's what you don't need. Because now you think you still got it. Your team is trying to pump you up. They're praying and doing all of this stuff. And then you get in the ring and you get the living shit beat out of you. Because you had one fight too many. From what I've seen from Tony Harrison, I think he need to hang it up. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to just fight junk fights just to try to get back on track, to try to make it look like you're back, but you're really not, what's the purpose? Because if you can't compete with the top guys, you know, then what? And in that last fight that he had, that was the beginning. That was the tail sign. You could see, like, nah, Tony's not the same. But when you say these things, you know, fanboys, they're idiots. They think that you're hating on someone, which is so stupid, because you're just speaking the truth, because you're not sitting there on anybody's bandwagon. I'm too grown up for this hating nonsense. I'm basically, I call it as I see it. And like I said, I don't know, even if Tony Harrison would have been at his best, if he would have beat Tim Tszyu. Yeah, but he's a year younger than Tim Tszyu. Somebody made that comment, and so what? Who's talking about age? We're talking about durability. He does not have what he had a couple of years ago. And when you stay out the ring for so long, and then you come back, and you think you're going to go in there and do more than what you can, it takes you some time to be in there and get that wake-up call, because your team won't tell you that. Your team is trying to tell you you're the same fighter still. We believe in you. We get it to a certain extent. So you have to be honest. Because if that guy would have got killed in there, I mean, he was getting hit. Did you guys see how many clean blows he was taking? And the fact that Tim Tszyu was able to stand there and hold his hand back a good 2.5, 3 seconds, waiting to try to land a shot, and he had nothing but bobbling around and couldn't even throw anything back. And he basically was just getting rocked. And what he did throw back had nothing on it. What else do you want to see the man do? He's done. He said Tim Tszyu worked on some things. He's definitely an improved fighter. Like the same Tim Tszyu to me. Like the same exact Tim Tszyu to me. I didn't see anything different. What I saw is he was better initially than what Tony Harrison said he was. Tony Harrison thought he would be able to do more than what he was able to do. I didn't see anything different. I saw the same Tim Tszyu. It goes to show you what I'm saying. You see, all of the hype that people get into because of what fighters say, once they get in that ring, we can sit there and salute Tony Harrison. Yo, you was a warrior. Yo, we miss you. Yo, you'll be back in no time. The guy is finished. I saw the same thing happen to Daniel Jacobs, man. And people were still talking about Danny Jacobs. I'm like, man, Danny Jacobs is done. He's done. What else is it he's going to do? Who are you going to match him up with and he's going to go in there and beat? That's a top-tier guy. You don't have fights just to have fights. They have to lead to something. You want to have fights just to have fights, do exhibitions. And even in that, it's for a reason, right? It's something there. But as a pro fighter, and all you're doing is fighting guys and you're not really getting anywhere, that's either a guy who's at the end of his career or a guy who basically is trying to box to make some money, but he's just not that good. Tony Harrison is a former champion. He's a good fighter. He was a good fighter. He's not the same, and I just think he needs to hang it up, man. That's what I think. That's up to him what he does. It's his career, okay? But he's not sharp anymore. His reflexes are not sharp anymore. Iffy, okay? He can't handle pressure, and basically, to fight a guy and hit him with clean shots and can't hurt him, there's more guys in the division that will beat Tony Harrison. Still living off of the fact he beat Jermell Charlo in the fight that I thought Jermell Charlo won. Definitely. You know, second fight, he might have been ahead on that scorecard, but he wound up getting stopped anyway, so it doesn't matter. But you want to skip the fight that he had after the rematch with Charlo and act like that fight never happened. So leading into this one, what are we going by? The first time he fought Charlo and was gifted that win? But at the end of the day, you got to understand, you can only do this for so long. You can only do this for so long. So, you know, I salute them both for getting in the ring and doing what they had to do, but I just think that he wasn't as sharp as he used to be. Tszyu was good enough to do everything he needed to do, and he thought that he was going to walk through Tszyu, outbox him, and make it look easy, and Tszyu showed him, nah, not even close. Tszyu has always been a tough guy, a walk you down in your face all night type guy. That's always been Tszyu, you know. And Tszyu, he showed up, man. He did what he had to do. And for all of the people that thought that Tony Harrison was going to win and dog walk him, is because of the fact that, yeah, Tszyu was considered a basic fighter. Pressure. He comes in, he gets hit. Well, pretty much he showed Tony Harrison that, nah, I can fight. Never said Tszyu was a stupid fighter, but he's no real special effects to him. No, but he does what he has to do. And there's no excuses about it. He was the better man, and he got beat. But to the Tony Harrison fanboys who want to make excuses, my question to all of you is, what more do you want Tony Harrison to do? If you guys didn't see what I saw, it's simply because you didn't want to, and you don't understand boxing. You watch Tony Harrison at his best, and you watch that performance, and you think it was just a bad night. Nah, it was ring rust. No, it wasn't no ring rust. It wasn't no bad night. It was a bad night because Tszyu was better than they gave him credit for. That's what it was. That's what made it a bad night. In terms of him being a better fighter, if he trained on a different date and fought Tszyu would do the same thing to him again. He'll probably beat him up worse in the rematch. He's a shot fighter. You could see that he's not the same. He was able to go to 9 rounds because, again, he was a good fighter. And Tszyu basically is a one-dimensional type guy. But it went to 9 rounds. And again, Tszyu, you know, he can punch. You know, he's not the biggest puncher, but he can punch. And he rocked him with clean shots. And mind you, from round 1 to round 9. So if you want to see Tony Harrison, you know, getting ragdolled in the ring, well, so be it. Because if he continues to fight, that's what's going to happen to him. And you're going to see more knockouts. And the way he turned his head and was trying to avoid the punches without trying to hold, even slip. He wasn't even trying to slip and move the way you would do how you're training. He got hit, he was rocked, and he didn't have presence of mind. Let me hold on. No. The guy was on his feet and was dazed, had no legs, and he showed you. He's not the same guy. You had a good career. It's time to move on. You know, everybody want to tell you that George Foreman gave Muhammad Ali brain damage. Man, listen. Ali fought some vicious punches. Ali fought a lot of fights. We can't say what fight gave him Parkinson's. We can't say what fight it started in. You have people say Liston did it. Liston barely hit him. I mean, he didn't get hit a lot against Henry Cooper, but Henry Cooper dropped him in the first fight. You know, Ali wasn't the guy that took a lot of punishment. As he got older and he became more flat-footed, and he got hit more. But bottom line, can't say what fight it was. Like, I've always, you know, we can say his last fight should have been against Spinks, the rematch. You know, when a guy needs money and that's all he knows how to do, well, it is what it is. But I will go with that. Once he became 3-time world champ against Spinks, that should have been it. Can we say that Parkinson's, and look, he already had Parkinson's. It was developing already. Why? He came back and fought Holmes after that, remember? And you could hear Ali's speech. So we don't know what fight that it started, that this is the fight that caused it. We can't say that. We can all, you know, when you look at a fighter and you see a guy just not the same anymore, but you keep crossing your fingers and hoping that he has that one big fight left in him, that get a lot of guys hurt. I remember watching Pernell Whitaker fight on Tuesday Night Fights against a guy they called the Pink Panther, who was a C- or a D+. Guy wasn't that good at all. Pernell hurt his shoulder in that fight, but even up into the shoulder situation, the guy was outboxing him. And this is Pernell Whitaker fighting on Tuesday Night Fights. He lost that fight. That was the last time I saw Pernell in the ring. Pernell shouldn't even been in the ring that night. But if you see the, you know, little video package, I want to show people I'm still the same Pernell Whitaker. You know, I ain't lose a step in it. Nah, you lost. You're right. You didn't lose one step. You lost several steps. You know, Roy Jones, he could have called it a night after he fought Ruiz. He wanted to make history, whatever. Okay, no problem. And we saw Roy fight past his prime and watch him lose to guys that he would have blown away with no problem in his prime, but he chose to stick around. Now, whatever Tony Harrison does, that's on him. But I think he needs to hang it up. He just doesn't look the same. In fact, if I'm correct, his own brother said the same thing. His own brother said the same thing. And, you know, so is his brother hating on him too? Nobody's hating on this guy, man. It's just a simple fact. You can only do this for so long. And I'm pretty sure he'd much rather be able to retire and be able to speak and talk. Do a job doing commentary. Do something, right? Run a gym, right? Do something. You have options. Versus him sitting there in a wheelchair or sitting around trying to speak, sound like he's about to swallow his tongue and can barely pronounce words just because he wanted to try to come back and prove what? I just think it's time to hang it up. Shout out to him. Shout out to Tszyu. Salute to Tszyu for the victory. He did what he had to do. There was no excuses. That guy came. He won. He was the better man. It's as simple as that. They can fight again. Tszyu will do the same thing. Fight a third time. Tszyu will do the same thing. Tony doesn't need to put himself through that. Talk to me in the comment section. Never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people. I will catch y'all in the next video.